Hi guys, my name is Shane Cashin, and you are watching Tennis Ninja TV. Aloha Tennis Ninja fans! Welcome once again to Tennis Ninja TV. I am your host Shane Cashin, the Tennis Ninja, and guys, I can officially call myself a millennial because I have a website now. Guys, go ahead and visit tennisninjahawaii.com. I'll include links down below. Go ahead and check that out. We're still working bugs out. I'm learning as I go with this thing, but so stoked to give you another way to follow us and catch up what's going on with tennis in Hawaii. I have been maybe the most nervous I've ever been about having a guest on the show because this guy's done it all. He's played juniors, college tennis, pro tennis. He's actually even played in the Grand Slams, guys, if you can believe that. That's so awesome. He is now a two-time Kailua Men's Night Doubles champion as well. Guys, give a warm welcome to Michael Ianni. Michael, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Right on. Michael, I'm sure as I've been asking all my guests every week, what have you been up to during this whole time, man? We had no tennis. Then we had tennis for a few months, and now we're back on this again. What have you been up to keep yourself busy?
Yeah, it's been interesting to say the least. That's for sure. For what, 6 or 8 months now, almost. So, been played a little bit of tennis when we were allowed to. Then had to put the rackets in the bag, and then when I think we were allowed to again, and then now we're not. It's just it's weird. I've actually been surfing more because that's one thing that we have been able to do the whole time, which is nice. I mean, I think if the governor or the mayor said no surfing in Hawaii, there'd probably be a mutiny or something. So so at least I've been able to do something. But can't wait to get back out on the court. That's for sure.
Rong Ma was on the show recently. He also has been surfing the waves, so I guess you're part of
Yep.
the crew. And it's nice to have the swell kicking a little bit. Well, that's the only thing you can do, right?
Yeah, we've gotten pretty lucky. We've had some not amazing swells this summer, but I think aside from like a 2 or 3 week stretch, we've had pretty consistent swell, all summer. So it's been nice to at least have that.
You become very well known in the community the last, decade or so. As you played in the challengers here before, and you're in the night doubles, you're helping juniors, and we're all just kind of curious. Like any other tennis player who's been here, done that, where did Michael Ianni first begin his love for tennis? How did that all start up?
So I'll take you back to the very beginning, pretty much to when I could first remember. I was about 2.5 years old, and I was actually born in Singapore, and I lived there until I was about 7 or 8. And my parents, we had a tennis court in our front yard, and my parents would play all the time, and just with their friends and like little leagues or whatever. And I think about the time I was like 2.5, I mean, 2.5, I ran down to the court in my diaper and picked up like a little mini racket and just started hitting the ball around. And that was pretty much where it all started. From that point on, I was basically hooked. I would play in my room. I would hit against like my closet door or whatever in my room when I was like 3, 4 years old. I started playing my first junior tournaments when I was about 10. And that was actually in Florida. We sort of moved from Singapore through Hawaii. We've had a home in Hawaii for like 35, 40 years. And I have two older brothers who, one played tennis as well. And the other one, my oldest brother was a swimmer. And so my parents just felt that Florida was a good spot to land in the States, for the combination of the opportunity for athletics and academics, both, just growing up watching it in my front yard in Singapore. And then, my dad put me into a couple of tournaments when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old. And from that point on, I just got rolling. It's been a crazy ride since, but what can I say?
At that young age, I'm sure with kids that, they have so many activities to choose from. I'm not exactly familiar with how things were in Singapore, but when did you decide personally, or what made you decide that, dude, this sport's kind of cool, I want to do this?
Pretty much when we like moved to Florida, I was definitely in it in Singapore. I was motivated and having fun. Like I loved it, right? But there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity for sports there, especially tennis. It's just not, it's not that big. There's just, Singapore's tiny. I mean, I think the whole island is like, I might be way off on this, but I think it's like 7 or 10 miles in diameter or something like that. So,
Okay.
not a lot of volume, and certainly not a lot of opportunity for tennis there. And that was, I think, one of the reasons why my parents wanted to move, the three of us, or well, the three brothers, our family, to the US is, just more opportunity. So when I started playing junior tournaments at 10, 11, 12, I started to get into it more. And then I didn't really get the ball rolling until I was like in, 14, 16s, more in that kind of that, age range.
Not a lot of
Mm-hmm.
pros. The story is out about what exactly they did in the juniors, whether they're on the junior pro tour or just playing junior tournaments, like you already mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Take us through that, Michael, and what it was like to be a kid all that time ago before any of this happened and what you've done now. What was it like playing as a kid in the competitive scene?
Another thing that relates to the last question and then into this question basically is like my dad also pushed me. And he wasn't like the crazy tennis father or anything, like you've heard stories about some of the professional players, fathers who used to push them, beyond belief. But he definitely kept me going, because there were points in my career early on when, even I was like, do I want to do this anymore? Or like, do I want to go hang out with my friends after school instead of like going to practice for 2 hours, So I started, my dad entered me in a bunch of tournaments at like 10, 12 years old, played pretty much tournaments like almost every weekend in Florida. And there, I mean, Florida is ridiculous. It's like, it's a hotbed for tennis. It's one of the meccas for, in the world for tennis. It's crazy. So there's just tons of tournaments every weekend, even like I would play men's opens when I was like 14, 15 years old, just for experience. I get crushed, but that's part of the learning process. So I think I got in a routine at that point, and it just became a part of my life. And there was a lot of sacrifice. There were a lot of times where I was like questioning, as a 13, 14, 15-year-old, all your friends are hanging out and playing video games, or like going to the park, shoot hoops, or, doing whatever, going on trips with their family to, spring break trips and this and that or whatever. And, there were certainly times where I was questioning that, like, well, I want to do that. Like, why can't I do that? But I'm like 100% glad that my dad, he kept pushing me and, keeping me on that track so I could kind of, progress and get to where I got in tennis. So, I'm very thankful for that.
Did you do things like school tennis, high school tennis, for example?
Yeah, so it's a good question. In Florida, it's a little bit different, the structure.
Okay.
It's a little bit different than Hawaii, because I think there's just the volume of junior tennis. The FTA, which is like the Junior Tennis Association here in Hawaii. There's just so much more opportunities, so many more kids playing. So high school tennis isn't as important in Florida as it is here per se. And
Okay.
so I actually played like probably 95% junior tournaments throughout Florida, which, it's huge. It takes you 13 hours to drive from, the south part of Florida all the way up to the Panhandle. And so I spent probably, like I said, 95% of my time playing junior tournaments, and only maybe 5% of that playing high school matches. And I didn't, the high, I was on the team, but the coach, he understood the structure of like how it works in junior tennis in Florida. And he, he was cool with that. He allowed players, who else went to my high school is the Spadias. Remember Vince Spadia, Luan Spadia? They're a little older, but Vince got to like 20 or 30 in the world. And Karina Morariu, who was a terrific doubles player. She's probably 4 or 5 years older than me. And so the high school coach understood, kind of the path that players would take if they wanted, to really advance their game. So that was, I'd say, like 95% junior tennis and maybe like 5% high school tennis. So that's, to answer your question.
Before you got to the pros, which we'll get into later, what was it like going from that transition from junior tennis to college tennis? Take us through how you ended up at Duke.
Yeah, that's an interesting story, actually. I wasn't very good in juniors at all. I wasn't ranked highly. I wasn't ranked very highly in the state, and I certainly wasn't ranked high at all in the country. I ended up getting into Kalamazoo for I think it was like when I was 17, and I still, at that point, I still wasn't ranked very highly. But Kalamazoo's where you need to get to get exposure to the college coaches. That's at least back in that day. Today, I correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not as up to speed as you guys probably are, but today there's like a whole online ranking system for like kids looking to go into college, and it's like very detailed and intricate, and actually probably pretty accurate. But back in my day, in like 1997, 98, there was none of that. There was no online system to like rank players, who are looking to go to college. So it was basically you had to get to Kalamazoo in order to get spotted or get exposure to those coaches. And I did. I barely made it. And I got lucky in my first round match. I think I won it actually. But I got spotted by the University of Florida coach, Ian Duvenhague, at the time. Back in the late 90s, Florida was like a powerhouse. If I'm not mistaken, I think they won a championship somewhere in that era. And Duvenhague was one of the top coaches in the country. And Florida obviously had one of the top teams. And somehow or another, word got out. He was talking to some other coaches. And in my second round match, there were like 7 coaches watching me. And I ended up getting recruited pretty heavily, not based on ranking or results or anything. It was purely on potential. And I was always pretty small as a late bloomer, super skinny. I was I was skinny as a rail. But I hit the crap out of the ball, and I had a pretty big game. I just couldn't always control my shots. And so I guess coaches saw potential in that, and they said, this kid's got, he's got weapons, just need to like fine tune it. And, he needs to get stronger. Basically, that was the playbook on me. So anyway, after that Kalamazoo, I went on 7 recruiting trips. You can take 5 official trips where it's like all paid for by the school. And then anything after that is unofficial, and like you have to pay for everything. I ended up going on 7, and it came down to like Duke, UCLA, and University of Washington. And that was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make in my life. And it really was, it came down to the wire, and I chose Duke. Couldn't pass up the combination, the academics and the athletics. Our team at that point was like 5 or 10 in the country. And then my freshman and sophomore year, we were kind of a powerhouse. We lost in the quarters, I think, my sophomore year to Georgia at Georgia in one of the most ridiculous matches ever. But transition from high school to college was unreal. It was kind of where I learned how to work hard. And for me, like kids are going pro now, pretty early, and they're stronger at a younger age, and the tools and the programs are there for them to succeed earlier, or basically, improve at an earlier age. For me, that wasn't the case at all. I needed college. And so when I got to college, like I said, I learned how to work hard. I got a lot stronger. I learned how to play tennis and not just bash the ball around the court. And I think that's where like the biggest like improvement jump was for me. And it was tough at first getting used to all that. But, I really look back on that every once in a while and think like, that's where one of my biggest like learning jumps in my career was that, college transition.
Kalamazoo is still a pretty big junior tournament, I might add. But to answer your question about that ranking system, it's called UTR, which stands for Universal Tennis Rating. And yes, that is like the Bible in terms of what college coaches use to recruit their players now, which is a very cool tool. But man, that's so cool that you just happened to perform at the right time. You developed, and several coaches believed in you. And here you are playing for Duke. I know it's kind of a ways from, where we are now, but do you remember what it was like playing for the Blue Devils back then and being with a team?
Those were 4 of the best years of my life. It was, playing on a team is completely different than anything I had been accustomed to up until that point. You're playing basically you're playing junior tournaments, you're playing on your own. It's you and your coach, or in my case, it was me and my dad. and then you get thrown into this mixer with 8 or 10 other guys, and 2 coaches, and they're busting your butt. You're practicing 2 hours a day, then you're lifting, then you're running together, you're doing everything together. And so it's like this really cool camaraderie that I had never experienced before. It's like playing on a team. To me, that was one of the coolest things about college tennis. And I just remember that whole mindset change of like, well, you're not just doing this for yourself anymore. Like, you're doing this for the guy next to you, and that guy over there, and like the whole team. And to me, like, you don't get that very much in tennis, and I really did cherish that for sure.
What was it like at that time when you were kind of tail end of your college career and you were considering something like the pros? Because I'm sure that's a huge jump, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
What was the deciding factor for you? You thought that I'm going to go pro. Let's do this. Let's try this.
Well, I pretty much probably, I'd say sometime, around 16, 17 years old, I had already kind of made my mind up that I wanted to pursue a professional career. But I wasn't going to skip college. I was going to make sure, I wanted to make sure I got my degree. My dad's old school Chinese education's like number one. And that's the way it was. So, and I agree with that. I had zero regrets about going to college. I'd do it again in a heartbeat if I had to do it all over again. But I'd say from like 16, 17 years old is when I started thinking about going pro. And then, once I got to college, I knew I was going pro after college. Like, there's no way I was just going to hang up the rackets after college. Near the end of my college career, as it was winding down, I was a little bit sad because, those 4 years, they come and go pretty quickly. And, I certainly had a lot of good memories, but I was ready to go and try out the tour. And so NCAA's 17 years ago, holy crap.
Wow.
I'm old, man.
Time
Yeah, I still think NCAA's is around the same time. It's like middle of May.
Yeah.
And as soon as NCAA's is over, that you have the team competition, then you have the individuals, and right after individuals, packed up my stuff, went home. And I think I was playing a futures event like 3 weeks later in Northern California. It was like the first part of the summer circuit in the U.S. And then that was it, man. That was the start of a 10-year professional career. So there was no gap. There was no second guessing. I knew what I wanted to do. And I mean, I hit the tour like right after college.
And, you mentioned already 10 years on the ATP tour, man. That is,
Mm-hmm.
I can't even fathom what that must have been like. But, it's probably a loaded question, but take us through fond memories, experiences, things you will never forget, Mike, was a pro. What was it like playing on the ATP tour and fulfilling a boyhood dream?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in there. We'll start at the beginning. I actually I did play some professional events while I was in college, just over the summer.
Okay.
And you play as an amateur, so you can't collect prize money. But, when I started, let's say after college, I got one of my biggest accomplishments to this day, and I've played in all the Grand Slams and I've won tournaments and everything. One of my biggest accomplishments was getting the very first ATP point, and it happened in Redding, California. Yeah, in that summer right after I graduated, and I had to win 4 matches in qualifying. It's like 115 degrees in June in Redding, California, and you're playing at like this site that's certainly not Flushing Meadows. It's fine, whatever. But, and you're just slugging through these matches at, 115 degrees. And so 4 rounds to qualify. I play 4 pretty tough matches. I end up qualifying. And then I play this guy who's like this wily veteran. He's been on the tour for like 20 years. He's still pretty good. And I end up beating him in 3 sets. I still remember his name's Israeli guy, Oren Matavassel. And I beat him in 3 sets to get my first ATP point. And I was like, that was like, up until that point, that was like the best day of my, tennis life, basically. And then I lost in the next round to a guy, Ryan Sacheri. It's crazy how you remember these things, right? But I lost to a guy, Ryan, I believe it was Ryan Satchery in the next round, who played for Notre Dame. He had just graduated a couple years before me. And he got me, it was pretty close, but anyway, that was my first ATP point. So it took me a little while to like start accumulating points and getting my ranking up to, a spot where I could actually just get directly into all these tournaments. And then that's the key, right? Then you don't have to go through qualies. And so, it took me like probably 3 or 4 years to, get out of the futures and then get into the challengers. And so, after like the first year or two, I'm getting into the futures and I'm playing qualies and challengers and trying to break through there, but I'm still playing main draw futures. And then you kind of work your way up a little bit high enough to, break through in a couple of challenges. Then you're in the main draw challengers and then your rankings in that range. And then, the goal after that is to like play some ATP qualies and then try to break through and get to the next level and blah, et cetera, et cetera. Took me 3 or 4 years to get to that challenger level, maybe 4 or 5 years actually.
Wow.
I battled some injuries along the way. Nothing too crazy, but just real nagging stuff that just always set me back a little bit. And then about 2000, was it 8 or 9? I finally got into qualifying for my first Grand Slam, which happened to be Wimbledon. So I got my ranking up high enough for that, and I was on cloud 9. And and I go to Wimbledon like not expecting anything, right? And I've never played on grass, more than just like dinking the ball around on a grass court somewhere for fun, right? And I've never like actually played a tournament on grass. And I go there and I hit on grass for like 4 days, and I end up qualifying for Wimbledon.
Wow.
So it's three rounds to qualify for a Grand Slam. And keep in mind, Wimbledon, the qualies, they didn't even play it at the All England Club. They played at Roehampton.
You're right.
And so if you don't qualify for Wimbledon, in theory, you probably will never see the All England Club. So I'm like, all right, man, I got it. Anyway, so I ended up qualifying for Wimbledon, and that was pretty much the greatest day of my tennis life right there. And then it's just these like boosts of confidence, and you get on a roll. And later that summer, I qualified for the US Open, and that was my first US Open. Getting my first ATP point was one of the toughest challenges in my career. And then qualifying for a Grand Slam is definitely, at least for me, it was one of the toughest things I've ever done. I think I qualified for 4 Grand Slams total. So I played in all of them. I played in the qualies for all of them for like 5 years. Ended up qualifying for Wimbledon once, 2 US Opens, and 1 French. It's getting long-winded, man. I could talk about this forever.
Man, that's why we're here.
But yeah, I'll give you one more kind of highlight of the second half of my career. I kind of break it up into like the first half and the second half. And the first half is where I struggled and a little bit, and I was very persistent. There were definitely a lot of ups and downs. And then the second half was where I got on a roll and got to that, I was like 150, 200 in the world. And I was able to get into all the Grand Slam qualies, was able to play in all the Challenger main draws, and then a lot of ATP qualies and Master Series qualies and things like that. So I think in 2011, I believe it was, I got into the French. I'd never really played a lot on red clay, similar to grass. I played a little bit more on red clay, but not that much. And I go to Croatia the week before, play a warm-up tournament, lose to I think I won my first round. No, I did win my first round. I beat Bernard Tomic actually, and then I lost to I beat him like 3 times, and then I lost to a South American guy. So I'm thinking, all right, that's pretty good. Whatever, still no expectations. I go to the French Open. I look at my draw in qualifying, and out of all the guys in my bracket, I'm the only American, and everyone else is like South American. I'm going, oh man, like there's no way. All these guys are like professional dirt ballers. I beat this guy Brzezicki. He was, I think he's Argentine, first round. I was like, oh, that was fun. 3 sets. Like it was kind of a battle, but I played unreal. And then I beat another Argentine guy in the second round, Diego Junqueira. And then I'm like, holy crap, I'm in the 3rd round of qualies here. If I win this match, I'm going to be in the French Open main draw. Jeez. And I went out there and just destroyed this Brazilian guy. This is one of the best matches I've ever played. I was up. This is actually really funny. Sorry, I'm like really digressing here. You're like I'm
fine.
reliving my memories.
That's what we want, man. That's awesome.
Uh, I win the first set 6-2 in like, I swear to God, it felt like 15 minutes, and I'm blowing this guy off the court. I'm up 6-2, 5-0,
Oh,
and all of a sudden I start thinking, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to qualify for the French Open. I've never in my wildest dreams, because clay was my worst surface by far. I loved a fast hard court, and I liked grass. I played a very aggressive game. I'm like, did not suit my game, or at least that's what I thought. And I'm up 6-2, 5-0 in like 35 minutes. And I'm thinking, holy crap, I'm about to qualify. I'm about to do this. And all of a sudden it was like cement arm. It was
woo!
like double fault, unforced error, this and that. Guy broke me in like 3 seconds. He held.
Oh,
I got broken again, and all of a sudden it's like 5-3.
uh-oh.
And I'm thinking, oh crap, here it comes. And but somehow or another, I like dig my way out of this game at 5-3. He's serving, and it's deuce, add, deuce, add, deuce, add, back and forth. And I'm just like hanging on by a hair, and like mentally, trying not to completely choke this one. And I get another match point, and he double faults, and I've never been so happy in my life, like so relieved. Qualify for the French, play my first round a couple days later, and end up playing a 5-hour 71 game match.
Oh,
Set the record, the French Open record, for the longest match in the Open era at the French Open in
oh,
total number of games, 71 games.
wow.
And ended up having like 3 match points, I think, and lost 12-10 in the fifth,
Oh,
and no tiebreakers in the fifth. So it just kept going, right? 12-10 in the fifth. And that was like a serious bummer, but it was a heck of an experience. I mean, to this day, I mean, that, I would have loved to have won that match, but like, I definitely look back on that, and that's like one of the highlights of my career, even though it was a loss. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I went over Tommy Haas, took Bernard Tomic, beat him a handful of times. A lot of guys in like the top 30 and 40.
wow.
Sam Querrey and James Blake, beat them in doubles
Wow.
at the Cincinnati Masters, and then got the Bryan brothers and just got drilled. That was no fun. I could go on and on, but I don't want to chew your ear off. So I'm just gonna shut up for now.
Oh, dude, I love it. That officially wins #1 answer ever given on the show. Gosh, I love it. That's so rich, Michael. I find it so interesting how, us as players, regardless what level we're in, we're so wired to just remember like the 1 or 2 points even that make or break, parts
Yep.
of our lifetime in our career. And it's so cool to just hear, a former pro and you in
Yep.
particular, me getting to know you, just sharing that experience. Cause these are the stuff that like me, mortals and kids, they're like, oh, like, they want to there one day, or they want to see it in person from the stands. It's just, that's so
Yep.
inspiring, really, Michael, that we heard that. And, I was just kind of thinking too during this whole time, this must have taken so much work to be able to, continue to grow as a pro, even on the tour. A
Yeah.
lot of people, we don't always talk about, we talk about what won the slams and what about the ones we have won, but not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily the work that goes on behind the scenes on like the practice court. You shared all your awesome experiences, but Michael, what did it take on the practice court to get to where you were back then through all of this?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked that, because as I'm like rehashing all of these stories in my mind and telling you, like giving you the highlight reel of my career, I'm thinking, I don't want you to get the wrong impression. Like, this wasn't easy. This took,
Sure.
a lifetime of, hard work and sacrifice and dedication. And, that's where, I look back in my entire career, and I look back at like college, I think for me is where it all started, as far as getting that, instilling that work ethic. In juniors, I trained hard, but I didn't really understand what training hard was, and I wish I did, at an earlier age. I don't see a lot of kids growing up these days who understand like the actual sacrifice and the hard work that it takes to get there. And I think a lot of it, I'm digressing a little bit, a lot of it is like the social media and, you know, the 20-second Instagram clip of Dominic Thiem laying on, you know, on the court on his flat on his back after he wins a 5-set epic battle at the US Open, and thinking like, oh, you know, that's
Yeah.
not so hard. You have no idea how hard these guys work and how much they put into it and how much they sacrifice. I mean, it's hours and hours and hours spent on the court. It's, you know, going out every day for a year straight and hitting buckets of serves for an hour after your practice,
Mm.
and honing in on one spot, you know, for like 1 hour at a time. Or it's hitting cross courts with Roddick and doing 2-on-1 drills with Andy Roddick and another player for 2.5 hours straight. And that's it, you know, for like a week straight in the off season. Or it's running 400s until you're puking on the track. And, you know, it's not just like once, it's doing that like a lot. It's training in the off season. It's training in between tournaments. It's a ton of hard work and sacrifice. You know, things like when I was in high school, you know, junior tennis and all that, I never went on a spring break vacation. You know, when all my friends were, you know, excited, you know, for that 1 week where they could get to go somewhere with their family, somewhere cool, or, you know, go just hang out with their friends every day or do whatever. Like I never had that. I never had a proper birthday. It's December 31st is my birthday. I was always traveling
Cool.
to play the first week of the year, you know, in January. You sacrifice a lot of things or I did as a kid growing up. And then, you know, once I got to college and everything and the tour, then it sort of becomes, you mature a lot, and it's more like your job at this point. Not in college as much, but in college, you start to get it, and you make those sacrifices, and it's not as difficult to make those sacrifices as opposed to when you're like 15 years old, right? And then when you get on the tour, it's a job, and then you make those sacrifices. You don't even second guess it. You don't even think about it. But yeah, I can't tell you how hard, you know, myself and not just myself, but like all the guys you see on TV, you can't even fathom how hard they work and how much they put into it. So there's no overnight success. There's no overnight Grand Slam champion. There's no overnight millionaire. You know, people who are successful, man, there is a ton of work that goes in behind the scenes that you never see ever.
You know, I'm just kind of curious before we move on to the next part, which was, you know, how you end up in Hawaii. What do you
Yeah.
think is the thing you practiced the most, like with your coaches when you were on the tour or even in college?
Serve 100%. Without a doubt. My dad, he would have me, you know, like I said, after every practice, you know, in juniors, it was like, go to school all day. You know, go to the academy in the afternoon, from whatever, I can't remember what time, 3:30 or 4 to 6. Right. And then after that, he would take me off separately, take me onto another court, and we'd hit a couple of buckets of serves, even if it's one bucket. But it's every day. And, you know, some days you'd hit 2 buckets or 3 or 10, you know, whatever. And it's just that constant grind. And, you know, like I said, sometimes we would work on certain things. Sometimes I would, you know, hit one spot for an hour, and that was it, man. And, you know, and it was all kinds of serves: second serve, kick serve, flat serve, slicer, everything, over the years. And so, you know, as I got older and stronger and you know, went through college and pros, my serve was my biggest weapon by far. And, you know, it'd be interesting to like try to figure out a number of like how many serves I've hit in my life on the practice court, not in matches, but like how many buckets of serves I've hit. I mean, it's got to be in the hundreds of thousands. I don't know, man. It's a lot. That was the thing I practiced most for sure. Yeah.
You know, then you end up coming to Hawaii, and that's where I get to see you for the first time, was the Honolulu Challenger at the Racket Club. It wasn't back here, it was at the Kyler Racket Club. And I remember seeing your serve, and I was like, dang, this guy hits a big one. So, like, but getting into that and transitioning into Hawaii, how did that all work out? Was the Challenger kind of like a way to see the islands, or did you already have ties here? Or how did Michael Yanni end up in Hawaii?
Well, I've had, you know, my family's had a home here for 30, 35, 40 years now. So I've always been coming here my whole life, summers or here, and not every summer, but here and there for a week, or once in a while. I remember over winter break. My brothers lived here I've been here since 2013 now, but my middle brothers lived here for a lot longer than that. My oldest brother never lived here, but our family just has been coming here basically since for my entire life. At least I'm 39 years old now, and as long as I can remember. That's sort of our ties to Hawaii, I suppose. My middle brother still lives here. He lives like a mile up the road. After I retired in 2013, I was looking at jobs, and I got a job offer here, and I just took it. I said that's it. And I always wanted to move back to Hawaii. I didn't think it was going to be that soon, but I'm definitely happy I did. I married a local girl, and we got a 1.5-year-old who's sleeping right now in the other room. So I'm definitely happy that I made the choice to move back here, 6-7 years ago, or not back here, but to here, I suppose. Speaking of the Honolulu Challenger, or not that one at Kailua Racquet Club, but the one they had at Corp. I actually played Dimitrov on that court behind you.
That's right.
In the Challenger.
I saw a draw. It said that once. I was like, what?
Yeah.
God.
So, Grigor Dimitrov on center court at Corp.
So cool how you ended up now in Hawaii, and then you end up stumbling upon the tournament of all tournaments here, which is the Kailua Men's Night Doubles. Where now you're considered a superstar, former pro tour player.
Nah.
The Night Doubles local tournament. And you played, your first year with Dennis Lahola, and you played another time with your brother, another time with Hendrik Bodie. I mean, I can go on. But tell us what that experience been like to do all you've done in the tennis world, and now you're playing the Night Doubles, and gracing your presence really there. So what's that been like, playing that tournament?
Well, I appreciate your kind words. I'm certainly not a superstar, but I do appreciate your kind words. I've told people, and this is the honest to God truth, and I've told everybody I've talked to about this. The atmosphere at the Night Doubles event is like unfreaking believable. I've played so many professional tournaments where there's like 5 people watching. And there's times when you're out there, in God, I don't know, St. Joseph, Missouri, playing a challenger with 3 people watching, and it's 400 degrees.
Wow.
And you're on court 93, and you're wondering, like, what am I doing out here? And then there's, and then there's like the Kailua Night Double. I mean, it's not a professional event. It's not, it's not the U.S. Open or anything, but the longstanding tradition they have there, the crowds they get out there, the way they run it, just everything it's so much fun as a player. It's so much fun to play in that event, especially, once you get to the semis or the finals, and the crowds are just on top of the court. Everybody's having a good time. They're cheering, no matter what, no matter who's playing, they're cheering. It's just fun, man. And I told this to Bruce and others, like how much I admire that event, and to have won it twice is pretty cool. When Dennis and I played my first year here, we had some great matches. We always played Mata and Tribler pretty tight. And I can't remember if we played them in the semis or the finals that year.
I remember you guys had them in the final. You guys played
okay.
Kaika and Thomas in the semis.
That's right. Yeah, and we played them tight too. I think that went 3 sets, if I'm not mistaken. Right. I mean, it's just, and it's that little court there and that little residential community is so cool. And then, the second year I played with my brother, and that was fun. I don't think he'd picked up a racket in years, but we had a blast. I think we got smoked first round, and then the last time I played with Hendrik, I mean, we had the epic match in the final with, again, Mata and Tribler, and that, just like third set breaker. I mean, the diving shot that you mentioned earlier, like the crowd's going nuts. I mean, it's just like one of my greatest memories throughout my career, for sure. Those experiences in Kailua for that tournament.
I did ask you this before, and I cannot leave this interview without asking this, is that shot, that was it a diving lob winner over Tribler, like deep in the tiebreaker in the third set to help you decide the thing, and the crowd was nuts. And I remember the video got on I think someone shot it on a phone, and then it got to Sports Nation, and then eventually ESPN, and I was like, dude, what was it like, Michael, being on the court when that happened? Like, did you plan that, or was it just, I'm going to get that ball?
That was it was at Mata was serving at 3-1 in the breaker, in the third set breaker. And I was playing the deuce side. He was serving 3-1. I can't remember if it was a first or second serve, but I made the return. This is something you will never see on the video. If you play there a lot, you know this. But the wind, it goes end to end on that court.
Right.
And it goes from the end I was on returning to the end, towards the end that Mata and Tribler were.
Right.
And to hit a lob, just with, this because you play tennis, it's much easier to lob against the wind than it is to lob when you're with the wind, right? And so Mata serves, I returns like a 1 or 2 volley exchange, and he hits that short volley, which is he hit a great volley, and I ended up just stumbling, and I was about to fall flat on my face. And I certainly did not plan that. It was pure luck. And it was just me basically trying not to fall flat on my face while still trying to like dig, just get a racket on the ball. And I ended up flicking it over his head with the wind, and it landed like an inch inside the baseline. And that put us up 4-1 double break. And by chance, my buddy Andrea was videoing the thing from the side. One of my friends from Duke, she was still is a producer at ESPN. And I called her up and I said, hey, you got to see this. And sure enough, it ended up on SportsCenter top 10 that night. And I think Hendrik and Lauren might have a friend who also works, or they also have a friend who works at ESPN. So maybe that was how it happened. Anyway, we both called up our friends at ESPN, and one way or the other, one of them got it on SportsCenter. So I'll take it. Yeah, that was epic. That shot, total luck. Me not trying to fall on my face, get my racket on the ball. I don't know how that happened. Just blind luck.
It's been a while since we've seen you out there. Are we going to maybe turn to Michael Yanni in the future?
Maybe we'll see. I unfortunately I broke my foot in April or May of 2018. Pretty bad. Yeah, it was like a displacement fracture and like a fully torn tendon, and I had to get like a full-blown surgery on it and everything. So that sort of made me realize, that I was about, 30? So I would have been 37 at the time. That was sort of a wake-up call for me. It was sort of like, hey, I really am getting old, and my body is not as healthy as it used to be. I've put a ton of miles on my body. I probably, injury-wise and like durability-wise, my joints and my ligaments and my muscles and everything are probably a lot older than a 39-year-old. A lot of wear and tear there. So I might come back and play Kailua night doubles. I don't know. The problem I have is when I get back out on the tennis court in a competitive setting, I see ball, I run, and that's it. I don't even think. Like, it's sort of like autopilot. And so now I'm finding the difficult thing for me now is I have to force myself to think to not run for the ball because I don't want to get hurt, instead of it just being second nature and just, guy hits the ball, you just run for it as hard as you can, and that's it. So it's tough mentally to try to make yourself not run for the ball because you're old and you're gonna get injured. We'll see if I can maybe get myself back in a little bit better shape and a little bit stronger, and then maybe I'll make an appearance. No promises though.
Cool to hear these stories, and it inspires others, So, Michael, I got to say thank you for coming out here and sharing that with us, man.
Absolutely.
But before you go, we got one more thing, and it's my favorite part of this whole interview that everybody loves, is the rapid fire question round. So what I'm going to do
Got
is
it.
ask you a bunch of questions. We'll keep the answers real short. I'll try and bang out one question after the other. We have some fun, and then we'll wrap this up. So you feel good?
Okay.
A little energy
Yeah.
left?
Let's do it.
All right. Michael Yanni, favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite music artist?
Ooh, for the longest time, it was Dave Matthews Band when I was younger, so I'll have to stick with that.
Role model growing up. Who was your role model?
Sampras when I was growing up.
Keith
Sampras for sure. Yeah.
Now, there's a name we haven't heard in a while. That dude's the man. Racket of choice. What racket were you using?
I'll go with the Wilson. Well, at that time it was the K-Blade. I don't know what it is now, but that was the racket that I used for pretty much the majority of my professional career, at least the second half. Yeah.
Awesome.
Wilson Pro Staff when I was younger. And then that's a legendary racket, but the K-Blade for the second half of my career.
Favorite movie? What is Michael Yanni's favorite movie?
Ooh, favorite movie. God, that's a tough one. For some reason, Dumb and Dumber that one always seems to stick.
Dumb and Dumber. Oh man, we got a mature audience here, man. I love it. Most memorable Hawaii tennis experience. What was your most memorable moment on court here?
Definitely that Kailua night double shot, the one we just talked about, the falling / diving lob.
Awesome. Definitely going to be a top 5 night doubles moment for sure, forever.
Yeah.
Ooh, wild card question. Favorite hair product?
I use what is it? It's Axe. What is it? Like a pomade, Axe pomade. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Is Axe a brand? Is it bought? What is Axe? Is that right?
Yeah, Axe makes they do make a pomade.
They do like the body spray stuff or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that's them. Oh, that is awesome, man. Right on it.
I can't believe I remembered that.
Favorite Hawaii tennis courts? Where do you like to go play here?
My favorite courts, believe it or not, is it's the Diamond Head Tennis Center, man. And it's like just that center court there. Well, really any of the courts, but just that whole setting is, I played in a lot of courts around the world, and there's a lot of nice places I've played at. There's a lot of not so nice places I've played at, but like rarely do you ever find courts like that nestled back. It's quiet back there. There's Diamond Head. You're like looking at Diamond Head on one side. You're a couple hundred yards away from, gorgeous ocean. It just, to me, it's an awesome little setting.
Ooh, favorite beach. Where is your favorite beach, Michael?
Favorite beach is probably the North Shore, like Keiki, that whole stretch up by, log cabins, off the wall pipeline. So like that whole stretch right there.
I'm guessing, are you one of those chargers?
I'm not a charger, but I love to surf. I have my limits. I won't, I'd say like 4 to 6 Hawaiian. Anything more than that is probably out of my comfort zone. Favorite
place to eat?
I don't know, man. It's been 8 months since we've gone anywhere. So
that's right.
Since lockdown, I can't even remember what a restaurant is. I've only eaten there a handful of times, but I gotta go with Senia, our restaurant here in Chinatown.
Senia, I've never heard of that place. The food's good?
Yeah. Oh, it's unreal. When we come out of lockdown, give it a shot. Senia, Senia.
Singles or doubles? What would you rather play?
I would rather play. Well, now I'd definitely rather play doubles. It's easier on the body. In my professional career, I preferred singles because I wanted to make it in singles. I probably should have played doubles though, because I think I'm better at doubles. I think I probably could have gone further in doubles, but I gave it my best.
Favorite hobby other than tennis?
Surfing. For sure.
Right on.
For sure.
You are a true local boy, man. I love it. Favorite pro tennis player?
Federer, hands down.
Favorite Grand Slam? Now, this is an interesting one.
Ooh. Yeah, you know how many people ask me this question.
What's your call? Do you have a favorite?
I always say this. If I had to pick one, I'd pick the U.S. Open, and here's why. because playing at the US Open as an American is like, you can't imagine what that feels like. And just the amount of people that come out, obviously pre-COVID, and just will watch you play simply because you have an American flag next to your name. They don't even know who you are. That feeling and that, just that electricity in New York at the US Open, it's like mind blowing. And I didn't get that many people out to watch me. I mean, we're talking like, for US Open standards, not that many, a couple hundred here and there. Bigger matches, a couple thousand or whatever. And then the biggest match I ever played against Querrey, I played Sam Querrey on Louis Armstrong. So maybe like 10 or 12,000 people. That was insane. But just for that alone, just playing as an American at the US Open is like one of the coolest things ever. If I wasn't American, or if I didn't take that, if that wasn't as important to me, I would say Wimbledon is like, Wimbledon is like it's like the throne of tennis. I mean, I don't know I don't even know how you describe it. It's just getting there and like walking on the grounds is like something out of a dream, it's crazy.
If you could give one tip to an aspiring junior player or a total beginner to the game, what would Michael Yanni tell him?
Keep a positive attitude. And I didn't learn this until like much, much later in my career, but in not just tennis, but all sports, actually everything in life, it's applicable to your personal life, your job, anything you do. You got to keep a positive attitude. Nothing is ever going to go how you want it to go. You're never going to win every match or close every deal or whatever. There's going to be days when you're practicing and you're playing like crap, and you can't hit a backhand or a forehand or to save your life, or you can't make a serve, or you got the yips on your seconds, whatever it is. Grinding through that and figuring out how to solve those problems with a positive attitude is like, that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, you might win, you might lose, but it's how you go through that journey. I think that's like important, and that's how you improve in life. It's that continual improvement and that positive attitude. So that's what I would want juniors to know. That's what I would want juniors to work on, and really try to foster that positive attitude day in and day out.
Michael, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And, you have the floor right now. I would like to leave things open for closing thoughts. Is there anything you'd like to say right now to the Hawaii tennis community, your fans around the world, or, your college teammates, whoever you like?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. This has been, it's been a pleasure. You got me going down memory lane a few times there, which, is a bit nostalgic, but it's always fun to do that. Just get out there and play as much as you can for the kids in Hawaii. Whenever the mayor and the governor let us back on the courts, get out there and play as much as you can. Have fun with it. For the ones who are looking to go aspire to a little bit more, work hard. Like I say, keep that positive attitude. It's a grind, it's a journey. It's not, there's no overnight success. You got to put your head down. You got to roll up the sleeves and do the work. And for the people around the world, if they're watching, I miss you guys. All my friends around the world, come visit Hawaii anytime. I'll take you surfing, or we can play tennis or whatever. Aloha.
Michael Yanni, thank you so much for joining us today and hanging out with Tennis Ninja and sharing your journey. What a journey you've had, and it's still not over yet. It's awesome to hear, from a former even pro, what it was like out there and just sharing your journey, which is so cool. You probably made a lot of kids really excited the last hour. So thank you for doing that, man.
Anytime, man. I'm happy to do it. My pleasure.
Guys, thank you so much for joining Tennis Ninja TV today, guys. Again, I really hope you guys learned something out of this one. Check out Michael Yanni and some of the highlights we'll put up of him in the future. Everybody else out there, please, guys, God bless, be safe, and aloha. See you later, guys.